Rewilding your garden for birds doesn't have to be complicated. It often starts with just letting things get a little bit untidy.
I love my wild area because it means it's less work for me, right? I don't have to do anything. I just have to let it go.
Yeah.
So it's great. Nobody's on my case about tidying it up. Because I'm like, no, that's for the hedgehogs, it's for the butterflies, it's for the caterpillars.
Here's NHS doctor and RSPB president, Dr. Amir Khan.
At the back of our garden, we've got a little pond that we built, and then at the back of the pond, we've got all the nettles, and it's also close to our compost heap. So we get loads of caterpillars. Well, not right now, but in the spring and summer, we get lots of caterpillars. Yeah. And then we see the blue tits coming in and picking them off, and then taking them off to their nests and stuff. It's such a wonderful thing to see, and it's so easy for us all to do. We've just got to move away from this kind of idea of manicured gardens, right? Where everything has to be perfect.
I know it is. It's like me. We've got a load of nettles, but they're towards the back, which is fine. I'm not running through them every day.
Yeah.
I
mean, it is a bugger when you get stuck. It is a bugger.
Wherever I've been, I've always put a pond in because you don't have to have a big pond for what it attracts. For frogs and newts and all sorts of stuff, doesn't it?
Yeah. All the insects that ponds bring with them as well are perfect for birds, aren't they? So we've got a wren that kind of hops around our pond picking off things that are flying close by to it.
For the little amount of effort, what it can bring, it's an incredible array of species and insects and birds and animals, isn't it? Just for that one little patch,
Yeah, totally.
We've hit the UK's warmest months. And when the temperature rises, birds have a few clever ways of keeping themselves cool.
I mean, one of the things about birds is that they have a body temperature that's quite high, it's 40 degrees, but they can't sweat, they have no sweat glands, so it all has to be through the mouth. So if you see a bird with its bill open, that's probably because it's trying to lose heat, which is lost through its respiratory tract.
Some birds have an even stranger technique. It's called golar fluttering. Herons and cormorants open their beaks and rapidly move the muscles in their throats. You can actually see the throat vibrating as they breathe. It's a bit like they're laughing, but it's a very effective way of getting rid of excess heat. And then there's a cooling method that's perhaps less glamorous. Some birds, including certain storks and vultures, cool themselves down by using their own droppings. Their droppings contain liquid, and when it lands on their legs, evaporation helps to lower their body temperature. Luckily, most birds have a slightly more familiar approach.
But you also see birds, in particular wood pigeons in my garden, which like to sit in the bird bath. What they're doing is they're cooling down as well as bathing at that point, and they can sit there for a good half hour, soaking up the water into their feathers. They actually have this curious thing called powder down. They don't have oil glands in order to keep their plumage fresh. They have powder that is little bits of feather that break off and allow the pigeons to preen that through their feathers to keep them in good nick. And when they sit in the bird bath for half an hour and get out, you'll often see this slick on top of the water. That is this powder down that they're cleaning out from their feathers. I'm Adrian Thomas, and I'm the RSPB's wildlife gardening expert. So there's all sorts of behaviours that you might spot with garden birds in hot weather, but one thing that you kind of don't spot is bird activity, and that is when birds really are too hot, and that thing of disappearing into shade where they just sit and do nothing. It can lead many people to think, where have my garden birds gone? Well, they're doing what we're doing. Where we're underneath our parasols, they're tucked away in deep cover, just trying to see these conditions through. Because like us, they're not adapted to them. This is unusual territory for them.
We can also do our bit to help birds during the summer.
A first consideration is, of course, giving them water. They need plenty to drink, just as we do. So having a bird bath or a pond can be a real lifesaver for them during these conditions. What's really important these days, particularly with the emergence of the disease trichomoniasis, which has been affecting greenfinches and chaffinches in particular, is that those bird baths need to be kept hygienic. And that does mean changing the water on a daily basis. It sounds quite a lot, but really it's only 30 seconds work. Take a watering can out and replace the water in those bird baths. If you can have a pond, even better. It gives them a greater chance to bathe, and it's easier to keep that water fresh for them. But it's not only water that's critical for birds during hot weather. Just as we like to find some shade in order to keep cool, birds like that too. So having some dense cover for them, and obviously that's not an immediate thing that you can provide, but given that these conditions are going to be ever more prevalent in the future, thinking about the long term of your garden and ensuring that there are trees and shrubs and evergreens in particular are excellent for birds to hide away and keep themselves out of that sun, that can be really important. But I guess the other thing in hot weather is that birds obviously still need to feed, and you might think they're wildlife, they can cope in these conditions. But if you think about a bird such as a blackbird or a song thrush that needs to find worms, those worms are deep underground. The soil surface is baked hard. So having a garden that has shady areas under trees and shrubs where that ground remains a bit softer, having mulches, putting compost down over the ground that the birds can flick through, that keeps the ground moister, that gives them a greater chance of finding worms and invertebrates. And of course, doing things such as not using pesticides to ensure that the garden is full of food for birds to eat. Those are often the things that you don't think about during hot weather, but having that wildlife-friendly garden, having the trees, flowers, shrubs, having mulches down on the ground, having compost heaps, all of those things curiously add up to helping birds in hot weather. So start with water, clean water on a daily basis. That's critical during hot weather. All of those things can be done whatever the scale of garden. If people want to know more about wildlife-friendly gardening, we've got loads of resources on the RSPB website. There's also a brilliant website out there called the Wildlife Gardening Forum, which I think is probably the most comprehensive wildlife gardening website that's out there, from a wonderful little charity that covers that. Or you can turn to my book, of course, which is RSPB Gardening for Wildlife, available from every good bookseller or even second-hand.
Feeding birds brings us closer to nature. But new research from the RSPB shows it can also spread disease. So, the advice is changing. Feed safely and feed seasonally. Here's one of our Get Birding experts to explain more.
My name is Megan McCubbin and I'm an RSPB ambassador, and if you've been looking into the news, you'll have noticed recently that there are new updated guidelines from the RSPB detailing and asking us to change the way we're feeding the birds. Now this comes, I think, as a bit of a shock to most people. It's a bit of a surprise. It's something I've personally done since I was a child. So to have this massive change feels like quite a big deal, but when you look at the data and the science that has come out of a lot of research, it's really clear why. So what the RSPB are now asking is that we remove our bird feeders with seeds and nuts from May the 1st to the 31st of October. And that's all because of quite a new disease, a protozoan parasite called trichomoniasis. It's a really nasty disease. It creates lesions in the back of the throats for lots of birds. It's known in doves, pigeons, even birds of prey, but in 2005 it became really prevalent in our finches. So they've declined about 60% in the last few years, which is a shocking statistic, and it is down to trichomoniasis. And it's really prevalent in the summer. It's spread when birds share food or water, but seeds and nuts especially, because you know how birds pick up a seed and they'll weigh it in their bill to decide if the time taken to eat it is going to be worth the nutritional value of that seed. So a lot of birds, you watch it if you watch your feeders closely, they'll pick up a seed and they'll drop it to the floor. And finches love to come and feed on the floor, which is one of the reasons why they're struggling so much with the disease, because they're changing saliva with multiple birds. It doesn't survive long outside the body. It can desiccate this parasite and dry up. So in the winter months when the temperatures are colder, trichomoniasis struggles to survive. So just while the disease is incredibly prevalent, it's one of these things that is sad for us because we love feeding the birds. It's a way of connecting and engaging with nature. But at the same time, if it's causing them harm, it's got to be about them. What we can do, though, in the summer months is we can occasionally scatter feed mealworms. Mealworms are a great source of protein for birds, but move it around. So if you do it in one area of your garden one week, perhaps if you do it the following week, change the location of where those mealworms are. You can also occasionally put out fat balls. Fat balls are, again, a great source of energy, great for the winter, but also sometimes in the spring when they're going through breeding. I might still put mine out occasionally, maybe once every week or 2 weeks. And the key thing is we make sure that if we see a bird that looks unwell, and the way to tell if a bird has trichomoniasis is they often look like they've got fluffed up feathers. Sometimes they look wet around the bill. There can be food stuck to their bill and they're really lethargic. So they're often really sleepy. You can get much closer to a bird with trichomoniasis than if it didn't have it, because they stay on the ground and they don't look very well at all. But they're actually, unfortunately, they can't keep food down. So whilst they look fluffed up, they're actually not getting enough nutrients in their body, which is why most of them die of starvation. But if you see one that doesn't look well, remove the food immediately, give it a break, wait for a few months before putting it back out again. There's all things we can do. We haven't been doing it wrong. We just need to adapt the way that we're feeding the birds and change how we look after them. We can still look after them in so many ways. We could plant seeds into our garden that create amazing life for pollinators that birds love to feed on. We can create natural food sources that bring birds into our garden in a different way. That's a fantastic alternative to do that benefits not just birds, but all wildlife.
If you love birdwatching, why not join the flock, our Get Birding Members Club? Enjoy exclusive content, latest birding news, ad-free episodes, and access to community chat rooms to share tips, spots, and more with birders around the world. Go to our website, getbird.ing.